She wipes her cheeks of phantom tears. What's on tonight? It's trauma and fear. Gaze into the black mirror with eyes to see. Could it be clearer? Oh, oh, we hold these truths, you know. Oh, we've got the proof. Oh, you know the thing. Pour yourself some discernment, my friend. Distractions and traumas. One begins before the other ends. Say no, reject the lies. The truth is imperative. That's why we're reframing the narrative.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Reframing Narrative. And we are stoked to have our friend in arms, Franklin Okanu, here with us once again, the long-awaited part 2. Franklin, what has been going on in your world? You've been riding up a storm. What's front and center for you these days?
Yeah, no, hey you guys, thanks for having me here. Glad to be here. First of all, hope everyone's doing good. Listen to this podcast, number one. It's been what we are 9 weeks into the year, so I hope everyone's doing well. If I had to say one thing that's been on my mind recently, it's just, oh my goodness, it's what is this all about? That's what it is. That's what it really comes down to. I think that's the biggest thing I've been working on, and I think I have an idea. I think I have an answer. It might not be the right answer, but I think it's one answer that gets kind of closer to where it is. But oh my goodness, it's so simple, but man, you talk about the overlay of just everything else that just kind of impacts just how we lose sight of just what's simple, what's important, right? So I'm sure we'll go into that more, but I think I've come up with a way of just, you know what, every single day, what are we doing? Like, what is this all about every single day, right? Because honestly, the hours matter more than the months and the years, because the hours and the days make up the months and the years, right? So when you see it like that, you're more into this awareness as to, well, what am I doing for the next hour? What am I doing for the next day, right? The next week? And so now, instead of looking at the years, like the hour, the day has so much more impact. So we can definitely dive into that, but if I were to answer what am I doing right now, I would say that's the biggest thing like on my radar as of right now recently.
Yeah, and just before we go any further, I have to add a comment there, and I have to remind myself of this many times, that every day, every minute, every hour that we have is special, and it's a gift. And one of the books that I'm working on right now, getting through The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, great book, and it really reminded me recently about, a lot of people say, oh, it's just another day, but they don't realize when that hour or that day is gone, that's one less day of your life. Like, you are marching towards your end.
Yeah.
So you really have to make your time impactful. And I just wanted to make that comment there, because it's something worth reflecting on and reminding yourself of every day. And the other thing I had to remind myself even earlier today was just get myself out of the scarcity mindset, because it's so easy to fall in that ditch and find yourself there and obsessing over things that you just need to let go, because there's abundance everywhere. And so I just wanted to add that comment.
If I may, with PJ mentioning the preciousness of every moment, have you ever seen one of those montages of someone's life and it's all like these maybe milestones and things, but if you see like a tragic scene from, let's say, the aftermath of a fire or Katrina or something like that, what really tugs at the heartstrings is those everyday articles, little items that were just part of daily life, and they're the equivalent of like a passing hour or just like an exchange between people. That just came to mind to me. It's like every little detail is there for a reason, and it's really important. So I just want to bring that up.
Yeah, no, wow. This is moving me already, and this is not where I wanted to go. Guys, oh my goodness, right? I think I just want to give a preview, right? Just to you guys and just everyone else, right? The article that I'm working on now, it actually has to do with just these moments in life, like these fleeting moments in life, right? But I will sit here and admit, like, this is probably the most complex article I've written just because I don't know where to go with this. And so I'm going to work on it this week. But the idea is society has changed very drastically in the last couple of years, in the last 20 years or so, to the point to where we go throughout our days. When you look back on our days, it's like, well, what did I do today? There's literally like blanks and pieces to where I don't know what I did today. Like those are aspects of our life that we just don't know. Like it's gone, right? We can't remember it. And last time that I was on the show, we talked about one of my articles, like how society extracts from you. And as I'm looking at it more, I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I even recognized how much it distracted from me now until I'm looking at it. I was like, man, what did I do today? Right. And so, yeah, I know we have some talking points, and it ties into this bigger piece here just because there's so much of what we do every single day that demands our time, that demands our attention, careers, jobs, this, that, and the third, to where you lose sight of, well, what exactly am I doing in this thing called life, right? And unfortunately, it takes something dramatic to make you realize that, wow, this is what I'm here supposed to be doing, right? So no, I know we have a couple of points to talk to and we can dive into that piece, but I think just the energy already in the first 5 minutes, okay, I think we're onto something here, and this is going to be a very good pathway just moving forward into a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love just that you continue to write and continue to contribute and get people thinking in different directions. To me, I just think about that same idea that life is not given, right? Like it's not a foregone conclusion. How many examples do we see out there of people who were here today and gone tomorrow, right? And so what are we really doing with the time that we have? And then I just wanted to add, it's something worth reflecting on. I reflect on it myself, and I think everyone should just ask, am I building my dream or someone else's with the time that I'm spending?
Man, I don't want to give what I'm writing on, but you guys are we're gonna go there eventually, right? Dude, it's so much, right? It's so much. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I've come across recently is just your years are made up of your months. Your months are made up of your weeks. There's only 52 weeks in a year. 52 weeks in a year is only 7 days in a week, right? I have this tracker on my board, right? We have 44 years, no, 44 weeks left in the year. Just like that, it's over, right? But what demands most of our attention, I think this is one of the articles that we have to talk about, is mortgages, right? So, like, we wake up, I've got to go to work. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. There's just so many things that demand our attention. And then when are you going to have the time to take a step back and look at, okay, well, yeah, I have to do these things, but what does this matter in the totality of my life? And often it matters whenever it's almost too late, to when you realize, wow, I've lost 20 years of this. I've lost 30 years of this, right? So how can we, where we are now, how do we have that awareness into the grander scale of things to where we can be mindful of just everything that's going on, but still make the moments in life? And that's kind of what I'm working on. But this conversation, we're almost touching on it already, right? But yeah, no, let's dive into whatever questions you guys have, and I can start diving into those answers.
Well, yeah, and when we were communicating offline before this recording, I had mentioned that I had recently run into an article by Unbecoming, but about mortgages and how they really lock people into the narratives of society. And I had seen you had commented and put some really good thoughts in the comments section of that Substack as well. And I think it's just worth maybe touching on a bit about how people intentionally lock themselves in a certain mental cage because thinking outside of that cage really makes them question what they are doing with their time just to support that mortgage. And outside of that, then there's this whole other world of freedom that they could be doing something different, but that mortgage acts as sort of a check to keep them in the lane that society wants them in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the article by Unbecoming, I think it was the mortgage upholds the belief or so, or something along those lines. And I read it, shout out to Unbecoming. Great work that he puts out. And I read it and I thought about it for a second because you don't think about it, but you think about it, right? You don't think about it initially, but then you ultimately think about it. Well, why do we go to work? I think there's times where all of us wake up and we're like, I don't feel like going to work today. For most of us who do have a job, well, well, you have to, right? You can't say you don't want to, right? These bills have to get paid. And everyone has that dilemma or that question. Individuals, wherever they are in society, right? Like the article was on healthcare, right? But it applies to politicians for the most part. Everyone has these ideas as to why do I work? And well, there's a mortgage, right? There's mortgages to be paid, there's bills to be paid, and there's everything to that. And so that article by Unbecoming does a great work in kind of painting that picture because your average physician is probably like $500,000 in debt, right? Like your average, governor, just all these positions, like it takes a lot of money, just college tuition alone, right? Like that's number one, right? And then of course, when you go through that, you have to, of course, you're a professional now, so you have to do this, right? So bam, that's that, right? And then one of the things recently I've been learning about is just credit. And like, I don't think the average person understands credit to the point that it's there. Like, credit itself is just so much of an entrapment to where just based on your occupation, you have different credit scores. So now there's almost like the status that comes with this credit. There's so many things that come with just layers upon layers upon layers of just who you are as an individual, right? And that article by Becoming on the Morning just does a very great job because if you're asking someone to deal with information that they have gone through that builds their world, that is going to be a very challenging attack on the cognitive dissonance that this individual has, right? Like I have done all of this and I've done all of this with a very good mindset or with a very good intention to, help people and all this stuff. And now you're telling me all that is wrong. That's a very challenging scenario for someone to come in. And we talked about this on the last time, right? I talked about my personal experiences, but I will say that the article by Dummy Coming actually does a very great job of painting that piece. And as I read it, the next day I kind of went on a walk and I was thinking about this because when I was in school, I remember watching this movie, and there was this movie and I don't know the name of the movie or anything like that, but it was this individual and he worked for the tobacco company, right? And he worked for the tobacco company and he sold cigarettes. And there's this scene to where he gets attacked by someone who's boycotting the tobacco company, right? And they put like all these patches on him, right? And so he's about to die, but the fact that he actually smokes is what saves him because he's used to all this nicotine or whatever, right? But there's a line in that movie, and that line stuck with me. Like, and I don't know why that line stuck with me because it wasn't necessarily like an important line, but there's a scene to where it's him and these other lobbyists, right? And he's like, we're just trying to pay the mortgage. Like that one line was like, we're just trying to pay the mortgage. And I think I just went throughout my years like, oh yeah, that's all I'm doing, just trying to pay the mortgage. Not knowing that the word mortgage meant, a life in debt meant. Not knowing like mortgage meant like, yeah, you're trapped for the next, not knowing all these things about finances or time or attention or currency. It's just, oh yeah, it's a mortgage. I just kinda want to pay mortgage. Dude, that's 30 years of your life. That's 30 years. Like, do you know what 30 years is? That's a long time. But we just treat it like it's just so casual now, right? So I think that piece by Unbecoming does a very good job of highlighting this. The only thing, if I were to say that I may disagree with a little bit, it's not even a disagreement, but I do want to give shout out to all of us who still have mortgages but are able to say, you know what, I think things are different here, right? Because there's lots of individuals who, like, we're all still in the system, right? But we all were presented with the same information, and we decided to say, you know what, this is wrong, right? So I'm going to make a decision here and I'm going to do something because we still have the same mortgages that they do, but we decided to, you know what, I'm going to make different steps in my direction. I'm going to align myself with different actions, different ideologies, right? So, yeah, the mortgage is a gripping point, but for those who are out there, those who make that choice, you can override the mortgage and still work towards freedom. So that was the only piece that I had just to add there. But overall, it was a phenomenal piece.
Yeah, and if you look at the etymology of the word mortgage, it's actually death grip, right?
Yep.
And that's it becomes that guidance in your life that you have to maintain that payment every
Yep.
month, and therefore you have to exhibit certain behaviors. And I think we've touched on this a number of times in our podcast, but the fact that 2020 and the malarkey came around, and by 2021 many people were forced into taking the experimental solution, and they did that primarily in most cases because they had bills to pay and they had a mortgage. They didn't feel like they had a choice. And what a horrible place to find yourself in, that you would put your own life and body at risk just because of, by the way, something that was completely made out of thin air, which I most people don't realize. Your act of signing a mortgage is creating that debt, that money that did not exist. Like, you're literally creating that, putting that into the world. And maybe you said you've been diving into this sort of thing. Maybe tell us, what are some of the things you've learned as you've peeled the onion back in that
Yeah,
respect?
absolutely, absolutely. So, oh my goodness, like I've been mind. It doesn't take a lot to like mind blow me nowadays, but like I've been mind blown recently, right? Because after I read that piece by Unbecoming, I read his other piece on the five walls. Now I've read it before, but I read it recently again just to kind of review it again, and the five walls piece was just mind blowing. And the way that, just things work out. While I was reading his piece, I also read the piece on like taxes. And I've cross posted this piece a few times. I think it's by her name is Leviathan. And, she has this post about, we don't have to pay taxes or things like that. Very controversial, right? Listen, you read that information. We're all adults here. Read it, do with it what you want, right? Make your own decision. But it was eye opening. And there's this piece here where she talks about, listen, there's trillions of dollars that are spent or lost due to ignorance. Trillions of dollars. That's three words. Trillions of dollars spent due to ignorance. That's six words, six or seven words. That phrase right there just encapsulates literally everything in life, right? We are giving away time, energy, attention, all of this because we are ignorant of topics that we don't know about. And the way this world is set up is the fact that individuals said, you know what, I'm going to tell people XYZ. And we simply believe XYZ. And we do ABC because we believe XYZ. No one's ever questioned, well, hold on, what's up with ABC? We haven't, right? We just do XYZ. That's as simple as it is, right? And so Unbecoming's piece on just the five walls when it talks about, you know, the health empire, right? And how, listen, there's really maybe like four causes of diseases, right? But if you don't know this, I can make all of these conditions. I'm like, that's crazy because I can see where he's coming from, right? But then you look at every other industry. You look at the easiest one is just the space industry, right? NASA and all that stuff, right? The stories and the billions of dollars that are funded, taxes, right? Again, it's like, wow. And you realize we have all of these industries that no one's ever questioned. But we just do what we're told. We literally do what we're told because that's what we're educated on. And because I'm a upstanding individual in society and I'm educated and I'm smart, I'm going to do what the experts say because that's what it is. And it is literally a well-oiled machine. Who's going to question? Because if you do question, You're crazy. And it literally just runs an operation, right? And so one of the biggest things I've started to realize is I don't know, like, changing the world and, changing the system and getting everyone aware. I think that might happen, naturally as its course. But how about this? How about we just stop the system from extracting from us? Why don't we get some time and attention back? Like, why don't we just get more from our day, more from our week? When we look at the week, like, you know what? I had a good week because I did X, Y, and Z. I spent time with my friends. I spent time with my family. I did this. I did that. Dude, if you can do that and you line years up with that, that's a life worth living, right? But the way that the system and everything is set up is it's just not for that. And so when you realize trillions of dollars and systems are set in place because of just ignorance, man, you have to be like, well, what am I doing and what am I not doing, right? And it's not this crazy always questioning piece, right? Because I think at times we all have this inner discernment which will let us know that, okay, hey, listen, why am I doing this, right? So you're going to know what to question and what not to question. And by that discernment, you're able to realize, this is a fallacy and that's not a fallacy. But I think we started this call with just, just having a great day. Just, how do I make the most of this day? We've already talked about mortgages, right? We've already talked about work. It's like 6 hours of your day. The other 6 hours is sleep. Well, 2/3 of your day is already gone. Well, now what are you going to do for the rest of the time, right? And so it's interesting. It's very interesting. But I think the fact that just millions of people are just waking up to these kind of questions, right? There's 6, 7 billion people on the earth. Listen, some people are just gonna be like, yeah, sure, whatever. But I think for those individuals who really want to have a good life, live something that's worth for next generation. It's definitely possible, right? It's definitely possible. And just we've been giving one narrow way to live, but brothers, boy, this right here is for everybody, and they don't want everyone knowing that. But if we pay attention over here, man, it's a beautiful sight.
Amen to that. I couldn't agree more. And I would just say that your point about 2/3 of your day being gone is so powerful because it really does put things into perspective that, well, what are we doing with the time that we actually have that we're not required to sleep or be keeping up with our bills in some way? What's the balance of that, and how are we using that to do something meaningful for others and to create a legacy from the life that we do have? And Jake and I were talking recently about what we do respectively and how even for us as independent business owners, we find ourselves at the end of a day feeling like a deflated balloon, and it can be really hard to find that extra gear to do something creative or be introspective or to write something. And that just feels like one more aspect of the system that it forces you onto that hamster wheel, whatever that looks like for you, and you run and run and run, and then when your time is done, you're exhausted. You're like, well, I want to run a different track, but I've got no more energy left. And that's a real challenge for people like us who have been involved in content creation on some level or doing something outside of just, let's call it the 9 to 5. How do we recapture that time, and how do we use the time that is discretionary to do something meaningful?
I think energy is involved too. It's not just time. So there's an energy exchange as well. There's an output. And a good example of somebody who maybe has to learn about that give and take is massage therapist, let's say, who knows maybe a little qigong or something like that. They know about energy, right? They can't give all their energy to every single patient on their table in every single visit, right? Because by the end of the day, they're going to be a raisin, not a grape, right?
Yep.
And that's just an example. So I think there's energy involved in all that we do as well. And maybe that's why a lot of people end up kind of as automatons in their work, because they're trying to preserve something for themselves. But yeah, it's a struggle every single day when you're just doing that. I don't do the 9 to 5. I do have tasks I've got to do. I work with people, and I have to be fully present to get the best out of them and really be almost on stage and prime myself and get geared up to work with them. And then I finish that and I feel really good about it. But yeah, it's really hard to do anything the rest of the day beyond that. And that's an energy thing for me.
This is phenomenal work, right? This morning I was washing dishes, just hanging out with my wife, right? And I had so many ideas. I literally started washing dishes and I had like my pen and notepad here. So as soon as I had an idea, I'm like, all right, stop, I gotta write this down right over here. I had this idea and I wrote it down. It said, "Hey guys, welcome to hell. I'm your host, Franklin Okanu." Right? Like, hey guys, like this is the world that we live in, right? Like this is hell. Like this is the world, right? Like this is how it's been set up. And that's entirely what my book is about. Like literally Plato's allegory of the cave. And when you understand Plato's allegory of the cave, we are the prisoners and they are telling us the world this is. But guess what? If you just simply turn around, you literally see the outside of the cave and all there is, right? And so, with that analogy, you have to understand like, this is where we are in life, right? And I think the biggest thing that's helped me out is okay, here I am. Like, here I am. I talked about last time on the show, John Taylor Gatto's quote, like, this is a labyrinth that's being built. Guys, we're not going to break a labyrinth in a lifetime, right? But then it goes back to, well, how can I win the most every single day? And you break it down to, how can I win the most every single hour? And I'll be honest with you guys, this is something that I realized literally like this week. Like, so you guys are like, I haven't even written about it yet. Like, you guys are just now realizing this because I was having a conversation with my wife, like, babes, like we're just so tired. Like, why are we so tired? Like after the day, so like I had to reassess myself. And I'm like, okay, what am I doing to make myself present every single day? And this is where I came up with the whole hour block, right? Okay, right now it's 3:36 Eastern time. What am I doing for the next 30 minutes? Okay, I know I'm on this great podcast, so that's all my attention is going to be. And okay, after this time, I'm probably going to be doing something else to where I need to almost like mentally prepare myself for this. And recently I wrote an article about envisioning, right? And the idea is that we don't envision enough what our day looks like. We a lot of times, I know personally, we just go through our day, right? We go through our day and just whatever comes our day, we do it, right? Well, where's the control in that? Like, where's the autonomy in that, right? And I think that we can gain some autonomy of our day if we look to plan our day as best as possible. But of course, I understand things happen. But as long as we have some intention in life, intention with our day, and I think this is very important, as long as we have some dedicated time just to rest and recover, we kind of get this energy back, right? One of the biggest things I've been working on recently is the whole metaphysical aspect of currencies. And the idea is that time and attention are currencies, and we don't know about this. Like Dr. Tom Cohen, if you're familiar with Dr. Tom Cohen in his book, Cosmic Heart, Human Heart, he talks about this idea that the heart is this vector and it resembles the element of gold, right? Well, everyone knows gold is a currency, right? Well, what are we doing? I mean, right now, we're literally, our heart is beating. So I make the argument like, well, that's this gold heart just beating, ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. Okay, well, so literally every single time I'm doing something, that means I'm pumping gold into it, right? Well, that's a very interesting way of looking at things. So yeah, when I'm present with you and I'm giving you my attention, which is another currency, which is silver, which I've heard multiple content creators call this attention as the currency of the universe. I'm like, well, hold on, that has a lot of metaphysical phrases to it. Our attention is the currency of the universe. Well, it is, right? Because if I have your attention, I get your time. And so I make the argument that attention can be seen as silver. So if I'm giving my attention to you, I'm giving you my silver. I'm giving you my gold. Like, I'm investing in you right now. And the crazy thing is, like, we invest, well, I mean, just look at it from a financial perspective. If you invest in something, there should be an ROI on it. Right? Well, so listen, well, what is the ROI on this past hour? What is the ROI on this call? And so when I have like somewhat of an expectation, or if I envision what I want this day to be like, or if I know, okay, I've got, wow, dang, I got all these meetings. All right, cool. Well, what do I want from these meetings, right? I want this, that, third. Do I have to go to this one? I might cancel this one. Do I like? And you have more of an aspect in creating your day. You're able to, okay, I'm going to work for this much. I'm going to rest for this much. I'm going to move X, Y, and Z forward. I will say that I have found it to be helpful, but it's not easy. It's not easy because, again, welcome, guys. Franklin O'Connor here. We're in hell. Like, this system is designed to extract every single moment your gold and your silver. It's crazy, but when you look at it, it is, which is what I'm gonna work on recently. It's just literally everything in our world. You can make an argument is an addictive personality disorder, right? But we consider it normal. We consider things like binge watching. That's 6 hours. Dude, 6 hours? And I'm sure this audience probably doesn't watch anything for 6 hours, right? But the idea here is physically, if we start to look at our time as attention as valuable, what are we doing? And I will say, ever since I've come to this realization this week, I've been more intentful on rest. Today, I woke up and I was like, man, I should do something for Substack. I'm like, you know what? I'm tired. Like, I'm really tired. So I literally sat in bed for 3 hours, like 3 hours, just letting every thought come. And I'm not gonna lie, like 2 hours and a half, I was getting antsy, like I gotta do something, like I just gotta do something. But the idea was, I had 2 hours to myself, and I just let all my thoughts come. I envisioned the world. I daydreamed about goals, this and that. When do we do that anymore? It time is almost gone because we're in this, and I think Peter, you mentioned this rat race, right? We're on this hamster wheel. Well, who put us on the hamster wheel anyway, right? Oh, then you start to realize again. Welcome to hell, guys. Franklin O'Connor here, right? Like, hey, this is the trap that's been set for us, but this is how we can escape the trap, and it's not going to be easy. But with time and attention, if we invest in our systems, oh, trust me, this is how we build a path to escape hell and get to heaven.
Love that. And I just would add the comment, and it's something that was brought to the forefront for me going through the Slide Edge is everything you were just talking about is so true, that how you're investing your time and attention, that you can take that a step further and say compound interest is either working on your behalf or against you. But either way, you're on some curve of the compound interest timeline.
1000%. One of the things that I have not talked about, and I want to talk about, I think last time I was on this call, I mentioned um, a second book. I really, really, really want to dive into like that 1000 AD to like 1500 AD, because my book is really from like 1600, really 17th century to now, like the last like 200, 300 years. But I'm starting to realize like so much stuff happened before that. And one of the biggest phrases that keeps on coming to mind is the merchants, like these merchants. I don't know why I have this term merchants, but it comes to mind, merchants. I had an article recently called Time is Life, and the idea is that article was actually when I first started to make the connection between gold and heart. And I don't know if your followers know this, but like a lot of times my articles is me learning something, and I'll go, well, how do I explain this, right? So I literally sit here and I'll publish it, and as soon as I publish it, I'm like, darn it, I just learned something else. Like, oh, I gotta make another article about that, right? And so like you literally see me learn these things like in real time. And the idea, we talked about the etymology of mortgages, right? Like Black Law's dictionary, like that's a dictionary that, if you start going into these different firms, like you have to know these Black Law's dictionary, like words have power. There's a reason they call it a mortgage for a reason. Like these are things they know what they're doing. So when you say, well, who is they? Like what is this whole they thing? you just end up in like finances and economy all over again, right? And then who do you run into? You just run into this class of people just known as merchants, right? These merchants, right? It's all merchants, right? And so merchants, it's finance, it's economy. That's all this world is about, right? And it kind of goes back when you tie this to metaphysical, gold and silver. It's just this conduit of energy, right? You time, attention, energy. These three always work together. Like there's always an interchange between these three. It's almost like, I don't want to say the Holy Trinity, but there's this Holy Trinity of just currencies, the time, energy, and attention. You need all three to make anything manifest. But it goes back to these merchants, right? And when you start looking at etymology, the article on Time is Life, I talk about the banks. Well, the etymology of banks, right? Well, what are banks? Banks are river banks, right? And it was Jordan Maxwell who talked about this, the law of the sea and the law of the land. These are two different things. And when people really understand the history of things, you really understand the phrase trillions are lost due to ignorance. You have the law of the sea and the law of the land. When you talk about things like gold and silver, these are hard substances. They're physical. This is the law of the land. This is how your monetary policies should be based on, right? They should be based on things of the law of the land. And that's how it was for millennia. Literally, if you want to say the world is 10,000 years old, literally for 9,500 years, it was based on the law of the land. Somehow, some way, these merchants figured out, listen, we can buy a country, just fund the wars, right? And next thing you know, these merchants become more powerful than the royalty, and then the merchants start writing themselves into history. But the merchants are brilliant. Listen, I don't want the spotlight. You can have the spotlight. Just let me have the monetary policy. Like, you have to admire evil at times. Like, you know what? That's a pretty good move. Yeah, I did not think about that, right? And it's just like, it's crazy because the world and history will tell the story of that guy, but we never look to see who funded that guy or who was behind that guy or who benefited from that guy or anything like that. And so when you look at these merchants and when you look at just the banks, right, the river banks, well, what is a river bank for? A riverbank is supposed to control the currency of the river, right? Well, currency, well, let's look at the human population. Well, what is currency? What's currency? You got your time, your energy, your attention. If you can control a population's currency, their time, their energy, their attention, you control the direction of the current. Like the etymology is here, it's all over the place, but it's only for those who have eyes to see and for ears to hear. And so our world now is ruled by banks, and it never should have been because the law of banks is something that should be solid. But now we liquidate assets. You can freeze your assets. The law of the land, which is supposed to be solid, has become very liquid. The law of the sea. Again, shout out to Jordan Maxwell for bringing this to out there. And so what happens is, number one, again, welcome to hell, guys. Like the monetary policy that we all live in is not meant for us, right? We have mortgages with interest. Dude, you're going to pay double on that. Like, why would you do that? No one willingly signs up to that. Well, guess what, guys? We've been propagandizing. Here we are now. Unless you know that, okay, I want a house, right? And this is what Becoming says in the article. Like, yeah, a mortgage is great, right? Well, how can I do this without the bank? Did you know you can get a house without a mortgage? It's possible, but it's just going to require so much more work. It might require more time, but did you know you can save 60 to 40% if you get a house without a mortgage? I just found this out. I'm like, no way. Yeah, it might take you maybe a year or two and you might have to make more payments, but guess what? You have a house that you own without the bank. Dude, mind blowing, right? So this is what we talk about when we say there's another aspect of the world. You don't have to do things the way society has told you. You can do it so much more. But when you start understanding everything, it really comes down to these metaphysical currencies, these principles, time, attention, energy. Where are you giving that? And this is the biggest thing. Who is extracting that from you? That's the biggest thing, right? Who is extracting that from you? Because listen, if I go to a job, listen, I know I'm here, I need a job, all that stuff, cool. But to the other point, if 2/3 we know where we're going, we're giving it to, what's happened to the third, that other third? And who is extracting that time that we just don't know. So phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, and just think, I love how you've categorized that as sort of its own little trinity of really accomplishing anything, the time, energy, and attention. And if you think about the average person's workday, they're given their time and their energy, and then when they're done, what do most people do whose energy is sapped? They sit in front of the black mirror, or some
Mm-hmm.
version of it, and they give it their attention and the rest of their time,
Mm-hmm.
and then lather, rinse, repeat, right? The cycle starts over the next day. And then that's how I feel like so many people find themselves later in life, in retirement, whatever, and saying, what happened in my life? Where did it go?
Yeah, no, 1,000%. Which is why it goes back to, you know what? Let's not worry about the days or the hours. Let's just worry about what are we doing right now. What does the day look like? What about the hours, right? Not the years and the months. What about right now? So one thing I'm working on, because we here in this space that we find ourselves, right? We're not here, for like conspiracy for conspiracy's sake. Yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, yeah. No, like we live this, right? Well, what does that look like when we actually live this? And so one of the ideas that I'm working on now is, well, how do we like work in society? How do we live in society? How do we do all this? And one of the ideas that I've come across is because society is so broken, and because society is upheld by like a lot of, literally, I kid you not, bandages, because this whole entire system is set on belief. There's so many bandages in place to where true solutions are possible. Like incremental wins are possible. One of the biggest things, there's this book I'm reading, it's called The Consultant Bible, and it's on consulting. It's a phenomenal book, right? And one of the lines he says is like, if you look at every single big innovation, it's big in its innovation because of the impact, but the tweak is just very small, very incremental, right? Now it's a hard part to make that incremental switch, but innovation is always driven by something very incremental. And the idea is that this world that we live in is so set up by this system that takes you to go one way, but if you can just find that, just that subtle tweak in it, you can make it much more different. And I'm working on this piece is actually like, whenever I have an idea, I capture that idea and I write it down, and I'm almost up. I'm over like 20 or 50 points of just like, wow, this is boom, 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 boom. So it's something significant, right? But the idea is, as we are humans, just all throughout this world, as we experience humanity, as we talk through different things, there's there's basic things that we need. We need survival, we need creation, we need all these aspects, right? It is very possible to make all that happen outside of the box. You just need to have good information, you have to spot an opportunity, and you have to produce value to the world, right? And when you can do that, now you're able to take a system and scale the system to where now this system can provide a resource where now your energy almost gets vitalized based on what you want to do. So now each day isn't necessarily like, oh my goodness, I've just given so much into the world. It's possible to where when you give into the world, again, we're talking about time and attention, gold and silver, but you're also talking about a return on your investment back because it's given back to you. And just to touch on the Bible, right? Like you have individuals like Job, who was blessed with just bountiful upon bountiful lands. You've got the prayer of Jabez, right? And the idea is that when you follow truth and you follow goodness, it reflects in your life. And I think that's the biggest piece that we have to start living now, because it's one thing to know all this cool stuff about the world. Well, how do we live it? Like, how do we change our world and actually live it to where people are like, you know what, I want to be like this guy, right? Well, here, come along. Like, let me tell you on this journey. Again, welcome to hell. Number one, here's your path to get out of it, right? And I think that's where we need to go as a society, as a community. When I say as a society, I don't mean everybody. I mean us who are aware, right? It's not just knowing this cool stuff and living in it. Oh yeah, did you know that this happened? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay, sure, whatever. Well, what does that do for you? Like, how does that make your life better? Like, what are you doing with your life? And when you develop that focus, again, nature is very simple, right? It's really time and attention and energy. What am I pouring my time and energy into? Like, I know I don't know about you guys, but like I'm excited about doing this, right? This is an hour, like I want to do this. So after I leave here, I'm like, that was fun, right? And I might do something else. But it's fun. How do we get more of that in our day? And when you start doing that, when you start tracking that, which is why I'm big on journaling, because okay, well, what did I do today? Right? Next thing you start knowing, like, well, what can I do? And so now you start coming up with a list as to, you know what, today I want to do this, right? I know today's going to give me 20 items, but if I can just one thing, today was a good day. Then you start doing two things. Then you start doing three. And it's not going to be easy. But this is my experience, and I imagine it would be everyone's experience as well. When you start becoming intentional about your day, when you start becoming intentional about your energy, dude, it starts to tweak. And there are literally plenty of studies on just working and working smarter to where you mentioned it, PJ, compound interest takes over, right? The focus that you give to something now compound because you gave it that time and attention now, not later, because later you've missed the mark. And so it becomes more of this, okay, what am I doing with my time, my energy, my attention? It's phenomenal stuff. It's phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, and a couple comments there. One thing that I really like about the general theory of the slight edge is, and for those who haven't read it, excellent book, highly recommend it. But one point that he makes is no matter what you're doing or think you're doing in life and with the time that you've got and every hour of every day, you're either on the upward swing or you're on the downward
I
swing.
like
And they
that.
can look like they're the same timeline for a
I
while, but
like
eventually you'll
that.
find that that
I
curve
like
goes
that.
up or the curve goes down, but they're parallel for a while. And some of these little tiny motions and actions don't seem like they're significant. But back to your point of compound interest, they build up to where you're either heading upward in life or downward. And those are those decisions you make every single day.
1000%. My wife and I just left brunch, and we were watching the Olympics, and what was currently on was the bobsled teams, right? And we were talking about it with our bartender. And what we were discussing was, my wife used the phrase hairline trigger, right? And the idea of hairline trigger is, as you're in this bobsled and you're going 80 miles per hour, the pilots of the bobsled, and there's the pilot and there's three other individuals in it, right? We don't know because we don't bobsled, right? But those who bobsled, there's a tweak, just a little bit of a tweak, right? And that little bit of a tweak can be the difference between, you shaving off 10 seconds or you adding 30 seconds on, right? And as I started studying credit cards and just the nature of credit and interest, I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like the way that these institutions make money, it's not because of like just these large charges. No, it's very incremental. Oh, so your balance increased. Oh, here's an interest. Here's a little interest charge. Everything is just very small and incremental, which goes back to your point, PJ. Like you can either go this way or you can go that way. Like, and then it starts to build up, which is why I'm a big fan of just journaling, because when you journal, that's how you can correct yourself to be, oh wait, I'm going this way a little bit. I should probably start going up a little bit. It's this awareness piece, right? Because we talked about earlier, 2/3 of your time. And this is why people are like, oh my gosh, no, things are great. We're not slaves. Really? What are you doing with your time? What are you doing with your day? Right? 2/3 of your day is already gone. You have a third to yourself. And with that third of yourself now in modern society, you have no idea what you want to do with that, because every single other thing is climbing for your attention. And of course, there are responsibilities, right? But I mean, at what point do you have time to start to really feed yourself and carve out for yourself, especially against a society that wants that time? But when you start putting your time towards something, you start investing in it, dude, and you start measuring it, it's the double sleuth experiment. Because the observer, you're able to observe what's happening in your life. Well, today was a good day. Today was a bad day. Yesterday was a bad day. Well, I want today to be, and you literally start changing things. Like, guys, I don't know if it's just me, but I will say this idea of measuring and observing has provided just so many results. And that's why I just write so much, because, oh, I learned this, I learned that. And I have this quote on my office right now. And it's a double entendre, right? Or it has a double meaning. But the idea is a ruler is always measuring. Like, you can take a physical ruler, it's always measuring something, but as a ruler as well, one who rules over their life, you're always measuring, not to the point of OCD, but, well, how is my life? What am I doing with my life? How can I improve my life? And prior to our modern society, to our digital society, societies would do that. Like, people would do that, communities would do that, unions would do that, everything would do that. But they're really like, yeah, we should probably stop that. So, bam, here's a TV. Now, here's a social media. Neil Postman's book, Amusing Ourselves to Death. We are literally amusing ourselves to death. Like, we love, and life is amazing. You should love life. You should enjoy life. Like, of course. That my great thesis is like, yo, this is what life is supposed to be. We're supposed to experience creation. Like, whatever religion you ascribe to, at the end you experience this creation that God has given you. But there is evil in the world, and evil says, I don't want you to experience creation. I want you to give that energy to me. And voila, that is our modern society. It's literally our modern society. Instead of you experiencing creation and revolting you whenever things are wrong because you have to work more, whenever all this stuff is, I'll just watch Netflix. I'll just scroll my phone. I'll just do this. And literally, next thing you know, oh, hey, listen, you've got X amount of years left. Oh my gosh, what happened to me? It's incremental. It's Peter, you said it, but it's literally incremental, right? You're either going up or down. And if you can get yourself just 1% a day every day, next you know, look at the year, wow, I'm so much better. And I think we lose sight of that because it's so easy to get caught up in the day. Today was a bad day. There was another bad day, right? No, but when you start focusing on the day, and then especially when you start focusing on the hour, you can be so much more intentional. And that hairline trigger, instead of you exploding, taking a step back, being calm, and you journal that, oh my gosh, hey, listen, I could have exploded today, but I didn't. You start building these things of just investments, and you just become a better individual overall.
Yeah, great points. And I loved a little while back too, you said it in so many words that really defining the wins in your day and deciding what are the things that are going to give you satisfaction regardless of anything that may happen, right? And so you can say, if I get this one thing done today, or if I do this, if I make the time to do it before my day starts, or I make sure that I do it after my obligations, whatever the case is, but you define your wins, because there's so much outside of our control that's external to us that we can't control, but we can control how we spend our time, what we define as wins, and how we dedicate our time and attention to those wins. But I've been hogging the mic here a lot. And Jake, you've been sitting there very quietly and patiently. I'm going to hand the mic to you for a little bit. I'm sure you've got about 10 comments after everything we've been talking about here.
I'm not going to try and recap anything. It's tough. I'm just enjoying the ride every time. Whether you read an article by Franklin or whether you're speaking to him directly, it's always a great ride, and it's inspiring. There's so much that he touches in me that makes me want to, just practice a lot of good practices, and it doesn't make me want to say who's doing this to us and all that kind of thing, like the typical conspiracy theorist. And I think that's one thing when you start learning about the world and the way it actually works is it's very easy to just feel like you're being bombarded and you're on the defensive. But what we're talking about here is just what can you do? Like PJ was saying, you're either going up or down. How can you make a little headway today? Maybe you're not going to write a novel in maybe not even in 5 years. But if you wrote a paragraph a day, you could write that novel, right? And if you continue on those trains of thoughts, and you're thinking about, maybe I'll introduce this character or that, and this subplot's gonna weave in there, eventually you could write that novel. It just takes a little effort each day against this current that we've been talking about. But I just wanted to make a point about, or just note, I think it's impossible to do all these things if you're multitasking. And multitasking is one of the big myths of our world.
Yes.
Not only do we have these obligations, but how many times have you just observed in maybe yourself, you can look in the mirror and recognize this, or just look at other people and they're not even present. They're having conversations and they're on their phone at the same time. They're glancing up. They're at a bar and they should be hanging out with people, their friends, but they're looking at whatever's on one of the 15 screens and the 15 games going on, whatever it is. And so we're in this really fractured world. And you just mentioned that we've got social media, and there's so many things clamoring for our attention. That's one thing I think we can be mindful of, to put a stop to a lot of what we fall into, is just be mindful of multitasking. Don't do it, and be present in each moment. So there's too many nuggets in there, and I don't need to reiterate them. I just want to make the point about multitasking and being present.
Man, I'm gonna have to say something on that one, because, man, listen, you guys, I'm just gonna have to drop all my jewels here, right? Number one, multitasking is like one of the biggest lies ever. Oh my goodness. Number one, the brain cannot multitask. I can pull like 10 studies right now that literally show you cannot multitask. If you want to multitask, right? Listen, the only thing that you can do when you multitask is I can have an intelligent conversation with you, because that's a higher level of reasoning. And I can chew bubble gum at the same time, because that's low. I just chew the bubble gum. That's the only definition of multitasking that you can do. But if you want to do two high level functions, such as pay attention to you and then also write an email or a paragraph, I can't. The brain cannot do that, right? But how many jobs can you pull up right now that ask you multitasking is a requirement? Again, trillions of dollars are built on ignorance. Like, our world is built on ignorance. So if you come in to say, I don't multitask, but I get results done, oh, I like you. You're special. Like, you're automatically thinking outside the box. Jake, you said something that is very important, right? Like, so the next phase that I'm diving into in my work is social media. Like, dude, like, oh my gosh, right? Like, if you wanted to steal people's lives without them knowing it, literally give them a device and just have them just zone out. Literally just zone out. Like, and hey, listen, I'm guilty as well. Like, you get me on a Saturday when I've done everything, right? And I'm not intentional about my day. Wow, I just spent like an hour on my phone just literally just cat videos, right? Dude, social media is literally the biggest extraction device out there, and that's its job. It's built to extract your time and your attention. The crazy thing is, right? So I am growing my Substack on Instagram. But you know what's crazy? Whenever I upload a video, or not a video, whenever I upload an article on Instagram, Instagram makes me wait for that video to upload. And while it's waiting, it gives me a feed. So now I'm like, oh, it's great. Dude, I just wanted to upload a video. No, I got you. And what's crazy is because Mark Zuckerberg right now is in trial, right? And so like there's so much stuff that's coming out. And personally, I'm like, wait, I didn't know Mark was in trial. Like, yeah, of course he's been in trial a couple of times, but dude, this is big, right? To bring everything home, what is Mark Zuckerberg in trial for? He's in trial for because Facebook designed ads and campaigns, not for money, not for money. The goal was, how do I get teenagers to spend more what? More time on the app.
Time.
Come on, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, bro. You got documents saying I want them to spend not money, more time on the app. Dude. And guess what? Here's the crazy part. Dude, you guys are getting all my work before I even write it out, right? Dude, it's not an addiction because it's not under the DSM psychiatric manual. It's not an addiction. Hey, it's habit forming. It's habit forming, but it's not an addiction, so it's legal. Right? And this is a very interesting case that's happening right now. Dude, if you start calculating how many hours that we've given to social media, how much of our lives have we given to cat videos? Dude, it's incremental. Like, what are you doing right now? Who's in control? Is it you or is it society that programmed you to do these things? All right. And I think that the daily walk is the most important. You can know everything you know, but what are you doing like right now? How intentional are you? That's why multitasking doesn't work. You pick one thing, and guys, in my work that I'm working on right now, like how to work, one of the rules is you never multitask. Whatever you're doing, you pay so much attention to do it because you're investing to it. And I got so much stuff to come on just because I work for a living. I do all these projects for a living, and I want to help people do this for a living as well, right? But yeah, no, trillions are lost to ignorance, right? And it's time that we start to educate ourselves even more.
I think when we end up multitasking, the end result is just it's mediocrity, it's slop. We're dealing with so much slop right now with AI, and there is that term AI slop. And now not only are people just looking to the algorithm to tell them what to focus on and pay their attention to, but they're even outsourcing their energy and their creativity and their brains to the AI chat LLMs. I don't want to put a number on it, but how many people are actually doing those high functions that you referred to just now, Franklin? Where if they're not distracted by social media or whatever they need to attend to, or being halfway present with the people around them physically, then what are they doing? We're just we're in a dangerous place in that sense. And I think one thing that makes me feel like nothing's going to come of the Epstein files, for instance, not to get into that specifically as a current event, but it's because of the fragmentation. It's like we're now, as a society, we're a kaleidoscope, we're a prism, and everything gets scattered away and there's no focus. And so as individuals, I think what we're getting at is, how do we just let that scatter and not direct us like we're part of that current?
Absolutely, right. So that's what my goal of my next series is going to be about, right? Because I'm going to talk about like social media. And then what makes it so complex is because in this world nowadays, right? Like, guys, we met on social media, right? Like, some seconds of social media, right? Like, you have to separate the positives from the negatives. But what I've come to realize is literally everything in our world has a positive and a negative. If there's someone who's threatening my family, if I kill them, that's a positive. That's offense. But if I were to kill him outside of just out of malice, that's negative, right? Like if it's my wife and I were having intercourse, that's positive, right? It's a family, that's a husband and wife thing. But if you're doing it, you said Epstein files, well, that's wrong, right? So everything here has this balance of right and wrong, right? But when you come to realize we were promised this world of social media, right? For all the positives, no one told us it was going to come with all these negatives to where it's going to really just suck your life around. And so my attention or my goal with this work is, guys, these are the characteristics of addiction. If these fit, guys, I'm sorry to say, we're addicted. And whether it's Substack or whether it's information, whether it's enlightenment, if this is the characteristics, we've got to stop. And we have to take that time and start focusing on ourselves. Like, we really have to focus. When you talk, listen, like, the Epstein files are the biggest noise out there because, and I talk about this a lot on my article on 4 reasons not to watch the news. Why? why do you watch the news? Like, dude, if I watch the news now, it's literally entertainment. And if I watch the news and they start saying something gory, up, change channel, something else, right? Like, tell me what's happening in my city, right? Oh wow, hey babes, look, they're doing this XYZ, right? Like, that's like the only reason I watch the news. National stuff, sure, whatever, right? And as you guys have seen, I've written articles on just like, why we shouldn't vote in presidential elections and all these things because I don't know about you. I'm in Florida. My biggest thing is like, oh my goodness, it's literally, guys, here's what's crazy. It's like 80 degrees now. It's literally 80 degrees right now. It's gonna drop to 30s tomorrow. What the fudge? Like, how do you drop literally 50 hours? Oh yeah, it's rain. Really? It's rain? Really? I don't know. It's kind of like really, really foggy in the air right now, right? So these are the things that are interesting to me. I don't care about, X, Y, and Z, but that's what they're pushing. You know what's crazy? Because, I can attest, I'm sure you guys can attest to this, right? What we're saying, we're more aware to the world and, all these things. When I have friends who are not aware and they're asking me, hey, what's up with these Epstein files? Wait, why do you care? Because I was listening to my hip hop and all I keep on seeing is Epstein files and all that. Wow. So they want you to care about it? Okay. They're pushing this stuff, right? And it's really just, I want your time. I want your life. I want your gold. I want your silver. And it's crazy. And it sounds so crazy. You're like, oh, Franklin, what are you talking about? Dude, there's literally a lawsuit right now with documents with the CEO saying, how do we get more people to spend more time on here? You can either say, oh, man, it's one big conspiracy, or nope, they really want my time in my life. Yeah.
It's fundamental, like you mentioned, the elements of addiction. And I'll just add one more on that. We probably need to wrap up eventually, but unfortunately, but they want your consent as well. If I could quote myself, and maybe I'll put it in the edit, but I think the biggest danger of the Epstein file release and everything that's going on with that and all the attention paid to that is that nothing will come of it, but we will have essentially the revelation of the method will have occurred. We'll know who is in charge and who runs things based on the currencies, and nothing will have come of it, and we'll continue wondering how we're going to pay the mortgage, and we'll continue turning to the person on the couch next to us and say, hey, what's on Netflix? And nothing's going to come of it.
Yeah, and I feel like I've got a perfect way to land this plane because not only is the Epstein file a big nothing burger, and as Franklin was saying, a big distraction and an attention sink, but when you think about people who've done real investigative work, and I want to give a shout out to Agent 131711 and his awesome series on Pizzagate and human trafficking and everything that he's uncovered. To me, there were some really mic drop moments in that deep dive where I can't say that I think about the art world very much, if at all. But one thing that really I got educated on in that series is not only is it a way for the controllers to shape opinions in society, but more importantly, it is actually one of the center focal points for money laundering and for facilitating human trafficking on so many levels because so much money can go in and come out without any traceability. And the reason I'm bringing this up is, well, what do I do about that? I just don't go to art galleries. I just choose not to participate, right? Especially now that I know how they're constructed, how they're funded, and what's going in and out of them, and what that is funding and the evil in the world. I could just say I'm not participating. And that's my own personal win. And if enough people decide they're not going to participate and turn their attention a different direction, it's like that old saying, if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, did it actually happen? Did it matter?
Yep, agree. And I'll just add these 2 cents to it, kind of just taking what you said, PJ, and then Jake as well. So I have this book right now I started reading. I started reading a while back. It's called Esoteric Hollywood, right? I can't see the name of the author right now. Dyer. Oh, it's Jay Dyer. I think it's Jay Dyer. And it goes to show, like, again, If trillions are lost due to ignorance, there's a group of people who know what they're doing, and they will put it in your face, right? And you may not have no idea what they're doing, right? That is the reality of the world. Again, this is probably the best thing to close. Welcome to hell, guys. Franklin O'Connell here, right? Like, let me give you a tour, right? Like, that is literally what we live in, right? Jake, you said that you can't multitask, right? You can either give your time and attention to, oh my gosh, what's going on? That's why, guys, they might pick a Patsy. Oh, what? Who's it? Andrew right now? Oh, he's going to jail. Yada yada yada. Okay, sure. I guess. Whatever. I don't know. Right? Like, so what? Right? You can either give your attention to that. I hope your ROI is good. Or you can give 10 minutes. That 10 minutes you could give to Jeffrey Epstein. You could give that 10 minutes to, oh my gosh, I should probably do this today. I should probably call somebody. I should probably wish them a happy birthday. I should probably, it's 10 minutes. In the piece that I'm working on just how to work, it's called Pockets of Time. And I don't know if you guys are sports fans. I mentioned there's in football games, right? Like the idea is whoever wins the turnover battle, right? Whoever controls the ball more than likely wins the game. So to me, what tells me is statistically speaking, if I control my time and attention more, I win the hour or I win the day, right? Literally, guess what? You've got defenses, Instagram. Hey, let me get that time. Let me get that attention. Breaking news. This, that, and the third. Well, let me just spend 10 minutes here on just talking to my wife, talking to my kid, going outside to my neighbor. Dude, this is spiritual upbringing here that we're working on, right? And listen, when we focus on the spiritual, we literally vitalize our physical bodies. And they don't want that, which is why they're going to give you every single thing, even conspiracies, just to extract. But you guys know this, man. This is the path that we're charting. How do we invest more in ourselves? So wonderful conversation as always, guys.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And this feels like the perfect wrapping up point. There, we could talk for another hour just on the topics that we brought up today, but I think that this is a good way to at least conclude today's conversation. But I'm just going to have to say, as we said to Medicine Girl a few weeks back, we're just going to have you on more regularly, and we're just going to have to continue having these conversations. We called it our part 2 as if it was the final installment, but I feel like we have so much more to talk about. So let's just plan that in 2026 and beyond. That's what I would say.
I'm down. I love it, guys. Great. I always get vitalized talking to you guys, just having good, wholesome conversation. No one does this anymore. So this, what you guys have here is phenomenal. I'm always down to support.
Amen to that, Jake.
I love that Franklin mentioned before, when you do something that maybe is draining to you, you don't feel good about it, but if you're having a good conversation, you look forward to it, and it energizes you. Like, what are we going to do with the rest of our days today? Are we going to have to recover from this conversation? I don't think so, and I hope our audience doesn't have to either. I hope it sends them in a good direction as well, and maybe helps them be more present in going about their day. So, yeah, there's so much more to cover, and we'll do it next time.
Absolutely. And I'll just say to our audience, I hope this inspired you, and I hope whatever time it is, wherever you are in our plane of existence, may it lead to better outcomes today, tomorrow, and the rest of the year to come.
Reject the law.